already? That's a rhetorical question. I know that it's Sunday already. It's been Sunday all day. I want to change my lighting just a little bit. It probably won't make a difference to you, but I think it'll make a difference to me. There we go. So what a week it's been. I can't hardly believe that I have been back from my trip for a week already. Um, I returned last week Saturday, and here it is already 1 week later. So welcome. I hope that you all had a great week, and I hope that you all had a fantastic Sunday. But you saw the title of today's live stream is Florida Animals Are Attacking. And this is really strange how suddenly we're seeing, animals. But I think a lot of this is due to the fact that people tend to forget these are wild animals, right? They're not pets. They're not tourist attractions. They are wild animals. Does this sound to you like my voice is a little hoarse? I made a few videos today and my voice sounded weak in all those videos. So I'm having a little bit of tea tonight. Hopefully bring that back a little bit. Get a little bit of, looseness to my vocal cords. So yeah, one of these attacks, and both of them, by the way, that I'm going to talk about today, there's more than obviously two animal attacks recently in Florida, but there are two that resulted in the deaths of people. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about, at least to kick things off tonight. I hate to start this on a real negative low note, but one was rather close to my house, and the other was up in Kissimmee. If you're unfamiliar with Florida geography, that's up around Orlando, kind of around the Disney area. So I'm going to read a little bit about that one first. And the only reason I'm reading about it is because I can tell you the story, but I don't want to misspeak or leave out any details. An alligator attacked and killed a woman who was canoeing with her husband in central Florida Tuesday afternoon after his spouse tried unsuccessfully to fight off the predator. So apparently what was happening is this woman, I believe it said she was 61 years old, and she and her husband were canoeing up in Lake Kissimmee, and they were in very shallow water. And alligators can be found in all waters. When I see them swimming in the canals and across the big lake in my community, I see them everywhere. I see them on the surface, and I also see them way down toward the bottom when they're in shallow water. So they're in about 2.5 feet of water. Their canoe crossed over the alligator, and apparently it startled the alligator and it tipped over the canoe. So let me read more about this so I'm not misstating it. The attack occurred near the mouth of Tiger Creek into Lake Kissimmee, south of Orlando. It's near the same location as a March alligator attack, in which a woman was bitten on the elbow while kayaking. The woman was sitting at the bow of a 14-foot canoe when the attack happened. It sounds like the alligator was nearly as big as the canoe. And if you know what 14 feet is, that's, wall to wall, uh, the average size of an average bedroom. She and her husband were in about 2.5 feet of water when the boat passed over a large alligator. The alligator thrashed and tipped the canoe over. Both individuals ended up in the water. She ended up on top of the alligator in the water and was bitten. Oh man. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be to have your canoe tipped over by an alligator and you land on top of it? Her husband attempted to intervene but was unsuccessful. I have no idea how you would intervene with an alligator. What could you possibly do? It doesn't go into detail, but I'm thinking, what in the world could you do to intervene with an alligator? If you still had the paddle, I guess that you could try cracking it, over the head, poking it in the eyes with the canoe paddle. You're only at 2.5 feet of water, so that's, barely waist deep, so hip deep. So I'm guessing you could stand, but I don't know if an alligator's thrashing about and your canoe's overturned and you got dumped in and your wife got dumped in. I'm sure there's a lot of chaos and a lot going on. So you're not thinking straight. It's easy for me to say here, what might you do? But I have no idea what you would do. It said he tried to intervene but was unsuccessful. The woman was identified as 61-year-old Cynthia DeKima of Davenport, Florida, and later was recovered from the water and declared dead. It wasn't clear if her husband was injured. Can you imagine that? That poor man. I mean, that is so, so tragic. Polk County Sheriff's Officer deputies, Marine units assist in the search and recovery. The gator grabbed her out of the canoe, a sheriff deputy can be heard saying. Well, as we know, it didn't. That was in the moment. It tipped her over and then it got her. He tried to fight the gator off. We're at the last place he saw her. He left the paddle where he last saw her at. So it sounds like if he didn't have the paddle at the time, he had access to the paddle. I don't know what that means where he last saw her. All I can think is that that gator dragged her and swam underwater with her, as gators have a tendency to do, right? They do their gator spin, and they take you underwater. So I'm guessing that's what happened, and he couldn't keep up with the gator. This is all assumption on my part. But if he tried to fight it off, he was unsuccessful, and he left the paddle where he last saw her. I have to believe that the alligator swam off or submerged with his wife. So that's really tragic. A nuisance alligator trappers were called to the scene. They recovered 2 alligators. One was over 11 feet long, matching the length and description of the alligator involved in the incident. And the second alligator was approximately 10 to 11 feet long. I don't know how you can describe an alligator. They all look pretty much the same to me. Sometimes they're darker ones and lighter ones. Sometimes I see them, they're very, very black. Sometimes they have a little bit of a greenish hue or cast to them. But officials did not save either of the alligators or euthanized. I can tell you both of the alligators were euthanized. Absolutely unequivocally, there is no doubt that they killed those alligators. First of all, if an alligator is aggressive, they're going to kill it. What else are they going to do with it? They can't release it into the wild. And even though it was an accident, I mean, if you can look at it that way, that's not the way they treat animals that attack people down in Florida, and I don't believe in any parts of the United States. Hey, Max, little Maxie is down at my feet. So I guarantee unequivocally 100% that both of these alligators are dead. They did euthanize those alligators. Since 1948, when officials began tracking alligator bites involving people in Florida, there's a lot fewer than you would think. There have been 487 unprovoked bites through 2024. Of those, 339 were major bites and 27 were fatal. So since 1948, so that's 77 years, there have been 27 fatal. So that's fewer than 2 a year, over 77 years. So that's not, I mean, if you're a family member, 1 is too many, but that's not as many as people think. People think the alligators are jumping out of the water and chasing after you. Most recent fatal alligator attack was February of 23 when 85-year-old Gloria Surge was killed while walking her dog. And we've covered that on this channel. Unfortunately, you can see video footage of that online. You don't see the alligator grab her, but you see the alligator. It is making a beeline across the water. The lady was 85, so I guess she didn't notice it, but it had a wake in its trail. And it came up and it started galloping after that dog. And you see her turn around and kind of yank the dog, and that's the end of the video that's been released. But apparently she saved the dog, but it was at the expense of her own life. And that's what happened 2 years ago. Earlier that year, 23-year-old man lost his arm in an attack near a pond behind a bar at Port Charlotte. I remember that one well. That young man was pretty upbeat about that. I remember seeing him interviewed on the news, and it was kind of silly. The bar was on the pond or on the lake, and uh, the bathrooms were too busy in the bar, so he went around back to relieve himself at the edge of the pond, and apparently he disturbed a gator or stepped on a gator or something, and he fell, and the gator got him, and it ate his arm. So, while alligator attacks resulting in fatalities are extremely rare, this tragedy serves as a somber reminder that the powerful wildlife that share a reminder of the powerful wildlife that share our natural spaces. Be cautious in your surroundings. Know the wildlife in the area. You know that I just saw an alligator today in my neighborhood. A lot of alligators in my neighborhood. I see them on an almost daily basis. Sometimes I'm looking across a canal or across a pond when I see it. Sometimes I'm on a bridge and I look over and they're right beneath me. You've seen plenty of alligator footage on this channel, but I'm always very cautious not to get too close to an alligator. They're fun to watch. They are wildlife. They do share our environment. It's not like you can kill every alligator. There's no need to do that. Years ago, in the 60s and 70s, alligators were getting to be endangered here. And now we're back to a pretty healthy alligator population, but uh, they're not really dangerous as long as you're safe. Now, I'm not saying that these two people were unsafe. It was a freak accident, right? So the agency administrators a statewide nuisance alligator program to remove alligators believed to pose a threat to people, pets, or property. So they will remove them. But if you just call up and say, I saw an alligator, well, that's all right. Was it threatening anybody? They say that people everywhere should heed this advice, so they give 4 warnings that I think are common sense. Keep a safe distance if you see an alligator. Keep pets on a leash and away from water's edge. That is the biggest one in my mind. They will see those little animals, they'll come after them. Swim only in designated swimming areas during daylight hours and without your pets. Alligators are most active between dusk and dawn, so that means at night. Although I see them all the time. I see them all the time. When it says most active, maybe that means when they're feeding. I don't know. But there are no swimming signs posted around here. I don't know why anyone would swim in this water anyway. Never feed an alligator. It's illegal and it's dangerous. When fed, alligators can lose their natural wariness and instead learn to associate people with the availability of food. That's going to come into play with the next story I have for you. This can lead to an alligator becoming a nuisance and needing to be removed from the wild. And despite what you see in these stories, when an alligator is removed, it's killed. That's the end of it. And I guess the next time you're going to see that alligator is on your plate when it's being served as alligator bites and made into a pair of boots. So stay away from alligators. Like I say, they're fun to watch. The next story is, I think, far more tragic. Well, I shouldn't say that. A dead person is a dead person. But this one, because it was so rare and it's a first. It's a first for the state of Florida. Florida man 89 and his dog mauled to death by black bear in the state's first fatal attack. Black bears are not known to be very dangerous animals. As you know, you saw, I'm not seeing any more, but for around 5 months, the end of last year, the beginning of this year, we were seeing bears and I was posting videos of them. They were right across the street from my house and I was filming videos. Some people got very careless and were very, very close to the bears. I would take most of my videos from inside my car. I have to admit, the one that was across the street, I stood at the edge of my driveway and took videos of them. I probably should have been a little more careful than that. Robert Markle's remains were found 100 yards from his home in Jerome. Now, where is Jerome? Jerome it kind of shares the forest that butts up to my community here. I wouldn't say close to my house. Um, for me to drive there would be about a half hour, 40 minutes maybe. As a crow flies, it might be 12 to 15 miles away, if you go straight across the forest, which I would never do, but that's where it is. Florida Fish and Wildlife confirmed that a man and his dog were mauled to death by a black bear in Jerome, making it the first fatal bear attack in the history of Florida. Family members reported 89-year-old Robert Markle missing from his home and signs of recent disturbances that could have been caused by a bear or bears around the property. The FWC staff on Monday, they were notified of a possible fatal wildlife encounter, and law enforcement and bear management staff immediately responded to secure the area. Okay, this is kind of gross, so I'm going to warn you up front. This is a little disturbing what I'm about to say this next sentence. Markle's remains were found about 100 yards from his home, along with evidence of a physical encounter between a bear and a person near the house, according to a news release. Officials noted the dog was recently killed by a bear near a person, and there was signs that a bear had entered the home itself. Why would a bear enter a home? I can only think of a couple of reasons. I hate to guess, but we're going to do a little guessing here. While the exact sequence of events remains unclear, FWC's human bear conflict response policies and guidelines outline how the agency should respond when faced with situations that require the removal of a bear for public safety. Now, you know, we had a pretty good sized bear and 3 growing cubs in here. I guesstimated, I'm not good at bear size, but I estimated that mama bear that came here to be around 250 pounds, maybe a little more. It said 3 adult male bears weighing 207, 263, those seem like kind of small for male bears, and 434 pounds. Now that is a big black bear, were killed. So 3 bears were killed. I don't know why they killed 3. If they had signs that these 3 bears had attacked that man. There was an unsuccessful attempt to trap a 4th bear. The DNA evidence that was collected, DNA evidence was collected from the 4th bear. Okay. The 3 carcasses were immediately taken to laboratories in Gainesville for necropsy. Is that like an autopsy? And testing, along with DNA samples collected from physical evidence near the scene. Medical examiners are still in the process of completing their investigation, but indicated Markle's preliminary case of death was consistent with injuries caused by a black bear. Here comes Max again. DNA received positive results identified that the 263-pound bear, the one that was in between those two, DNA was present on Markle, inside his home, and on the dog's body. So it sounds like that was the guilty bear. Now, why they killed all 3 of them? Can you hear Max? He's down here sneezing. Max, what's the matter? What's the matter, buddy? You okay? So yeah, they had DNA from that bear all over the place, in his home, on the dog's body, on his body. The only bear DNA found at the scene matched the 3 bears that were killed by authorities. All 3 bears were tested for rabies and the results were negative. I don't know, it must just be routine. Law enforcement and bear management staff stayed in contact with the family and maintained a presence near the property until Friday, spotting only 1 additional bear. I don't know what they're doing. If they were just willy-nilly killing bears, do I think that any of those bears were our bears? Now, I've seen 2 different sets of bears here. One was a mama with 3 cubs. One was a mama with 1 cub, and she was the one with the sore leg. It sounds like all 3 of these bears were males. So it sounds to me like none of them were our bears. And that's a good distance away. I was just reading here that that bears female bears have a distance of about 25 square miles. So that's 5 by 5 if you want to get real picky. So even if they're in the edge of our community, they're still not venturing out as far as Jerome. Now, male bears, they say, can have as much as 120 square mile distance. So yeah, that bear could have been seen in our community, but the only ones I've seen were always with cubs, so I'm sure that they were females. The 363 pound, okay, here is kind of disgusting too, warning. One bear, the 363-pound bear, contained partial remains of Marco. So apparently bites were taken out and he swallowed. Um, partial remains. DNA results positively identified that bear. So yeah, that's really, really sad. So then they go on to say that Jerome is a South Bear Management Unit in the South Bear Management Unit, which has the third largest bear population in the state, estimated at 1,044 in 2015. So that was 10 years ago. I don't know if the population has increased since then, but I've been seeing a lot of bears around here. They received 16 bear-related calls within a 10-mile radius between May 5th of 24 and May 4th of 25. So within the past year, resulting in 5 site visits, 5 capture efforts, 3 bears that were relocated and hazed. I don't know what that means, hazed, and 1 bear that was humanely killed. I wonder if these 3 bears were humanely killed. Well, it's rare for wild black bears to injure people in Florida. People have been bitten and scratched by bears, most often where cubs, food sources, or dogs were present. All right. So then it gives a lot of statistics. What do I suspect happened? I've heard other reports where the man had his gun. I suspect there was some correlation between the man, the dog, and food, as I said. So I wonder, and I've heard this, but this might have just been gossip. I wonder if there wasn't dog food outside and that's what attracted the bears. And maybe more often than we know about, they came to that area. I suspect also that the dog may have antagonized the bears. Um, and that may have caused, a disruption, a fight between bears and the dog's not going to win that one. And maybe the man came out then, saw something going on, tried to intervene with the animal, just like that lady with the alligator. And um, whether he was dragged 100 yards, tried to chase the bears away, what have you, I don't know. I don't know how the bears got into his house or when, but I think it had something to do with food, right? They're probably going after food. Whether it happened after he was mauled or before, I have no idea. So that is our bear encounter stories here, bear and alligator. Both of them are very, very rare. Even living where I do, where you've seen my videos of local bears, you've seen my videos of alligators, I am not frightened in the least. I am respectful. I am to a degree cautious, but I'm not frightened of bears. So come to Florida. You're not going to get hurt by bears. All right, let's move to a happier topic. My cats. You saw Max come in today, and you may or may not know I have a second channel. I actually have 2 other channels. One is the Cali Cat. On the Cali Cat, I talk about cat and cat related things because I love my cats. And recently, I want to ask for your opinions on this. Those of you in the room, you can write your opinion in the chat area. Those of you who are watching later, you can leave it down below. A company contacted me and they sent me an automated litter box for free. This is an item that retails for $500. And as a further incentive, I was able to offer my viewers a code. It hasn't released yet. The video will release probably tomorrow or Tuesday. So I got this litter box. I set it up. Cats have been in it, using it. Overall, very positive experience. It's going to be a very positive review. I like the product. My cats like the product. Here is my question for you. YouTube does require that we disclose when something is being paid for. I forget the way they use it. They don't necessarily say if you're getting, compensated with an item, but I think that constitutes the same thing. Do you think that that is unethical to accept a free item and having the expectation of a product review in return? Now, I can tell you I would never let a free item influence my opinion? My opinion's my opinion. And if someone is going to trust me to express my opinion with a one-time free product, I am certainly not going to jeopardize the trust that viewers have in me for a one-time free product. So I'm not going to do that. However, I'd like to know if who's back there. I can feel something pulling the chair down behind me. So I just want to know, what are your thoughts on things like that? Because it happens with YouTubers and influencers. I don't really like that word. I don't like it if someone will call me an influencer, because I don't think that I'm influential. I don't think my intent is to influence people. It's to have fun. It's to share information and, enjoy one another. That's what I think my channel's about. But anyway, um, I did get myself a free automated litter box, and it works so nice. And both cats have already been in. I didn't think Callie was going to be in it, because one of the drawbacks, it's the entrance to it is 15 inches off the ground. And Callie is just such a soft, sweet, feminine little girl that climbing up 15 inches is beneath her, right? So I put a little step stool there so she can hop up and then get in if she wants to. We have two other litter boxes. So um, the general consensus and wisdom among veterinarians and people who know about cats say that you should have one more litter box than the number of cats. So if you have one cat, two litter boxes, two cats, three litter boxes. I've always had two litter boxes for two cats. Now I have three, because I'm keeping the automatic one in the lanai. So anyway, that's that. And if you've been watching the channel, I have been doing a lot of how-tos. I have got viewership has gone down substantially in the last. What just happened? Um, I don't know why my power just went out. Huh, that was really weird. My lighting just went out. Well, you can still see me, but I don't know why my light just burned out. All my other power is on in the house, but that's very weird. So anyway, I'll keep up with my topics. I can't get light from anywhere else. So, boy, it makes my teeth look white, doesn't it? So anyway, I I've been doing a lot of how-tos, and I replaced the spout in my tub, and I know what I was saying. My viewership has been declining, but I think it might be with the onset of summer and people are outside and doing more things rather than everyone just being, glued to their computers. I hope that's all it is. But in the past 10 days, from the 8th until today, which is the 18th, so it's 10 days, I put out 8 videos. That's almost a video a day. So I would think by sheer numbers, it should affect that. But anyhow, um, I'm trying to figure out what the decline in viewership is all about, because I'm still putting out similar content. So if you see anything, if you have any suggestions for me, you're the viewer. You probably know better than I do why that might have declined. Okay, I know this is a little distracting not having my light on. I'm going to look into that. But hey, James, nice to see you here. You're welcome. But I'm going to call this one done, because if it's not distracting to you, it's distracting to me to not have my lighting. So I want to thank you for joining me. I always say it because I always mean it. I know you can be doing other things, and I appreciate it from the heart, the time that you come and spend with my channel and with my videos. So thank you so much. I'll see you here sometime during the week with the videos, but I'll see you live in 1 week from today. So thanks for joining me, everybody. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Meat Channel.